Whether your vehicle is computerized or not, if it's equipped with a carburetor, there are two important items that must work properly together to help your vehicle start quick and remain running during cold weather conditions. Those two items are the choke thermostat and the choke pull-off or vacuum brake. Let's talk about choke pull-offs. They are located underneath the air cleaner on the side of the carburetor and are connected to the choke blade via linkage on one end, and on the other end there will be a vacuum hose attached. Its duty is to slightly open the choke blade on initial engine startup to prevent an over-rich fuel condition. Symptoms of a choke pull-off that has failed include an engine that starts and immediately stalls, rough engine operation right after initial startup, and black smoke from the tailpipe during cold engine operation. On the other hand, a misadjusted choke pull-off, one that opens the choke blade too far after initial startup, would cause engine stalling when cold and a hesitation on acceleration during the engine warm-up period. If you suspect your choke pull-off is not working, the first step is to perform a visual inspection to make sure the vacuum hose is connected and in good condition, and to be sure the linkage between the pull-off and the choke blade are actually connected. If both areas appear all right, then start the engine and watch for movement of the pull-off. No movement indicates a defective pull-off. Another method for testing and adjusting a choke pull-off is to use a handheld vacuum pump. Simply connect the hand vacuum pump to the choke pull-off and apply 20 inches of vacuum. Once again, the pull-off should move and hold vacuum. If the hand vacuum pump does not hold vacuum and the pull-off does not move, replace the pull-off. Some pull-offs have a small bleed hole on the backside that must be covered with a piece of tape or your finger during testing. To replace your choke pull-off, you will need a magnetic screwdriver, a needle nose pliers, and a Haynes manual for your particular vehicle. First, you'll need to remove the air cleaner to access the pull-off. Make sure to mark or note the location of any hose connections that lead to it before disconnecting them. Next, remove the mounting screws from the old pull-off. This is when the magnetic screwdriver comes in handy. Carefully remove the pull-off while disconnecting it from the linkage. Take your time so as not to disturb or bend any linkages during removal. Many choke pull-offs have a bracket that must be transferred to the new part. Remove the pull-off from the bracket if so equipped. When purchasing a new choke pull-off, it is often a good idea to have the serial number from the carburetor or the old one along with you. Compare the old and new pull-off to be sure of correct replacement. If the old pull-off was earlier removed from a bracket, install the new pull-off to the old bracket. Install the new one in reverse order of removal by carefully connecting the linkage and reinstalling the mounting screws. Tighten the mounting screws securely. Lastly, make sure you check the adjustment once it is installed. To do so, connect up a hand vacuum pump, and with light finger pressure on the choke blade, apply vacuum to the choke pull-off. With a drill bit of the appropriate size, measure the opening distance between the choke blade and housing. Generally, there should be between 1/8 and 3/16 of an inch gap. But make sure you check a Haynes manual for the correct specification on your vehicle. If it is not within specifications, reset it by turning the adjustment screw or by putting a slight bend in the linkage. Reinstall the air cleaner and reconnect any hoses removed earlier. Once adjusted, start the engine to be sure of proper operation.
Now let's briefly recap the steps for testing and replacing a choke pull-off. First, remove the air cleaner and inspect the vacuum hose and connecting linkages. If damage or deterioration is found, perform necessary repairs before continuing. Then start the engine or connect a hand vacuum pump and apply 20 inches of vacuum. Watch for movement of the diaphragm. If no movement is noticed, replace it. If you're performing the test with a hand vacuum pump, check for a bleed hole that may have to be covered during the procedure. To replace a choke pull-off, disconnect the vacuum hose and remove the mounting screws. Carefully disconnect the linkage while removing the pull-off from the carburetor. Compare the old and new parts to be sure of proper replacement. In some cases, you may have to change a bracket from the old one to the new one. Position the new pull-off onto the carburetor while carefully reconnecting the linkage to it. Reinstall and tighten the mounting screws and vacuum line. Check and adjust the pull-off as per the instructions detailed in a Haynes manual.